how to paint a tree with foliage. A typical tree. A typical tree is a tree which is any tree. When you generally look at trees, you will find that some of them are leafless, some of them are with few leaves, and quite a few of them may be with lots of leaves. That entire mass of leaves on top of the tree is called foliage. Let us see today how we can paint a tree with full foliage in acrylic paints. We choose first a burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is brown, and along with it we touch a little bit of black and mix these to make chocolate brown color. This would be the color for our tree trunk and the branches. Now remember, when you want to paint a leafless tree, we paint the primary branches, the secondary branches, and lots of tertiary branches. But when it comes to painting a tree in full bloom, we abort or sort of cut short the growth of the tree trunk and the secondary branches. Instead, what we do is we will also paint from bottom upwards with the help of a thin round brush. We will paint the tree trunk growing thick to thin from bottom upwards. So this is the way we will paint the tree trunk. And very soon, do not extend this too much. Very soon we will show primary branching. Primary branching is when the tree branches for the first time. And each time we do this, the branching must appear narrower, and this must be gradually narrowed down. So I make a few branches which are gradually narrowed down, but I do not continue further for the simple reason that I want to add foliage on top of this. Now for painting the foliage, we will make use of two colors. First is the sap green, with a good amount of sap green squeezed out, and some amount of, we can choose from here itself, the dark which we made. Mix it into the sap green to form the shadow portion of the entire foliage. Very little or no water will be added, and instead a very thick pasty mass will be deposited with the tip of the brush all over on top of the tree, this way. Go on jabbing the paint or dabbing the paint over it continuously to form an umbrella shape. Now I am doing this with what I call a cut brush. A cut brush is a brush which I make myself because this is not available readily in the market. And this brush is an ordinary 7-number brush which is chopped off with the help of the scissors. The top is removed and it is made blunt. Now this is a brush which helps me a lot to paint the foliage. How do I use this? I dip this in the dark green made by mixing a bit of burnt sienna with the dark green, that is sap green, and then I dab the color all over to form an umbrella shape. Occasionally I leave out a few gaps. Now these gaps which you see here are called sky holes. As the very word explains, these are areas of the sky seen through the dense foliage at the top of the tree. So this is how I keep pressing the brush several times and form a kind of a umbrella shape. Now that umbrella shape should not be kept very regular, because the tree tops are never found very regular. They always appear very irregular. Somewhere they are taller, somewhere they are a little sitting down, and especially at the edges of the trees, you will find finer leaves where I jab the brush little very carefully and produce those dangling leaves at the periphery or the edges of the tree. So this is how I have right now painted the first part. Now this part I would call it as the shadow areas of the tree, because acrylic paints are opaque. We can use them for overlapping. So what I've done right now is I've painted the entire shadow area all over. Now this is one very good way of learning for absolute beginners. So the first thing I've done is I've painted the tree trunk and a few primary and secondary branches. Then I've added, with the help of a cut brush, a mix of sap green and burnt sienna. And I've made a kind of an umbrella shape to form the base of the tree top. Now, why is this dark? This is dark because these are the areas of shadow. Remember, whenever you paint with, whenever you see a tree, you will find that it is subject to lighting conditions. That means the light can be from the top left side, or it can be from the top, or it can be from the right side. Now here, presuming that the light is coming from the top left side, I have first painted the entire tree in silhouette. Silhouette means dark against light or black against white. So this is all sort of a silhouette. Then I allow this to dry. We wait for a few minutes till it dries. So now that it is dry, I presume light falling from the top left side, which makes this area a little illuminated. To show that, I will choose lemon yellow, or if possible a golden yellow. This is cadmium yellow, and I mix these two with the help of my cut brush again to form a green which is lighter than the earlier. More green and less yellow. Then I remove the excess, and with a limited amount of paint on my brush, once again start dabbing the brush on top of the green in such a way that I hide the earlier color painted. I take more and more paint as I proceed, and I paint a lot of area on the left side with the lighter green, since this side is the side which receives sunlight. Now remember, the tree is irregular. The foliage masses are irregular. There are areas in the source of light area which will be dark, and there will be some lighted portions in the dark side of the tree. This is because the foliage masses are clusters of lots of leaves which are irregularly placed. They are in groups. So there will be groups of darks in the lighted side, and there will be groups of light on the dark side. So I show them as pockets. A few here, a bit here, a bit here. And this time trying to be careful that I don't ruin those sky holes, because the sky holes are very important. They give a kind of a natural touch to the tree. But yes, by and large, there will be areas which are lighter, more areas lighter on the lighted side, and darker areas more dark on the dark side. Then I rub the brush and try to knock off as much paint as possible, and with a kind of a dry brush I just dab the paint limited paint so as to produce a kind of a graded tones. So the tree starts looking a little natural now. Then allow this to dry again, and this time I will take up more of yellow. More yellow, less green, with the same brush without wiping or washing, and do a small test. Just touch and see whether there is a difference. Oh yes, there is a difference. So I'm going to make these areas more light by adding more yellow and less green on top of the earlier dried layer. But remember, this cut brush is a very big blessing, because unlike the normal brush, they will produce tiny dots which work like fine leaves over the tree, spread out in a very attractive way. There's some more here. So pockets of lit clusters of leaves in areas of darkness, and pockets of shadow in area of light. This is what makes the tree look very natural. Now, in order to show some grass at the base, hold the brush, same brush, a little horizontal, touch it, scrub it up and down and sideways, and produce a beautiful lawn. This looks as if the tree is sitting in that grass. So this is how we will paint the leafless tree with acrylic paints. Now, as you can see, there are 4 columns. I prefer to draw and practice my trees this way, so that I can repeat the same tree over here again and again and again, and move over to another board. This board is of maybe A4 size or A3 size, and you can draw columns and make blocks so that you remain in check. If you do not draw these blocks, there are chances that you may go haywire and create unduly large trees, which may become a big challenge unnecessarily for the absolute beginner. So this is it, painting tree in foliage with acrylic paints for absolute beginners. If you have liked this video, please press the like button and subscribe to this channel, please. Thank you very much.